Am I the a-hole for refusing to keep a low profile of my recent engagement and refuse to come without him to mother's birthday to accommodate a jealous sister? My sister, 28 female, who has always been spoiled and cuddled by my parents, was dumped by her long-term boyfriend for another woman after he graduated from medical school this past summer. When she was looking forward to being a doctor's wife, thinking she'd be bathing in rubies and pearls, and then proposed to that woman after only a few months. I, 36 female, just got engaged to my better half, 43 male, 2 weeks ago. My sister is insanely jealous and competitive. She always has to be first and always has to win. I expected she'd be jealous but grossly underestimated it. She was apparently so overcome with grief she had a nervous breakdown and had to be hospitalized and then move back home with my parents. My parents have asked me to keep a low profile, have canceled my engagement party that was their idea until further notice, probably forever, and to come alone to my mother's birthday in a few weeks and leave my ring at home. They love fiancé, so it's not that they don't approve of the relationship. This was just to accommodate my sister. I said we are now a package deal, and if he is not welcome, I'm not coming, and I absolutely will not take off and hide my ring like some dirty little secret. And I told them they are uninvited from my wedding, and we are going no contact until they tender a sincere apology and revoke this ridiculous rule of keeping a low profile. I also said if this standoff goes through the wedding, we are going no contact for good. I've never missed a parent's birthday, so my dad is angry with me, and I called him a hypocrite because he wants no contact with his parents for excluding my mother over religious differences. He insists this is different, and I said no, it's not, because he's expecting me to do something to my fiancé that he'd never do to his wife. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Info: are your parents also getting divorced to make things easier for your sister? Must be hard for her to be confronted with people who have been together for so many more years than her own relationship lasted. Of course not. Well, you should ask them too, since the sister can't be around people in loving relationships. Not the a-hole. If happy moments in your life trigger severe mental health issues for your sister, that is absolutely a problem that needs to be examined. Harsh though it may sound, on some level her struggles are her own, and it's not really reasonable to expect you to prioritize avoiding inadvertently triggering her in every situation. When my husband and I got engaged, we had lunch with his sister and a few friends the next day. At some point, his sister said unprompted that we would have to stop mentioning our engagement now because it would make other people unhappy. It's been nearly 8 years, and I'm still mad I didn't have the wherewithal to say something to her about it then. Yes, it absolutely was indicative of larger problems in the horizon. I suspect this will go against the grain, but no a-holes here. Your sister has had a nervous breakdown that required her to be hospitalized. She's not being dramatic or dying in a hill for the sake of it. She was almost institutionalized. I don't have the expertise to judge her for that. Your parents are focusing their resources and effort with their child who was hospitalized. It's desperately unfortunate for you, and you have every right to feel hard done by when this is your time, and every right to take a stand for your fiancé, but your parents are not a-holes for this. They have a deeply unwell child. That has to be their focus. They are being unfair for trying to enforce a stricture on how you must behave, and you are in the right to defend your fiancé. But I can't in all honesty label them a-holes for trying to avoid triggering their daughter who's just had a nervous breakdown. It sounds like you all need some cool-off time. I'm specifically putting aside the obvious competition issues between you and your sister. You make it out like it all stems from her, but you appear to be minimizing her nervous breakdown, again, for which she was hospitalized. They don't do that for no reason. I think there's some mutual toxicity between you and your sister, and that's causing you to center yourself and your engagement in this dispute. It's not about you. Your sister is mentally unwell. You're allowed to be upset that you can't have the focus when you just got engaged, and to defend your fiancé. Your parents are allowed to think that protecting the daughter who's had to move home with them is the priority. Edit. The way you're talking about your sister's mental health issues in the comments is pushing you closer into a-hole territory, to be honest, OP. Your obvious relationship issues with your sister doesn't invalidate her nervous breakdown. You tell OP that her sister's mental breakdown is not about her, but you should really be telling this to the sister. Sister's relationship troubles have nothing to do with OP's engagement, and it wasn't OP who tangled the two issues. It was the sister and her parents. The parents don't just focus their energy on their sick kid, as you say. They expect their other kid to not live her own life in a very normal way to appease her sister's mental illness. I highly doubt that this will support the sister's recovery. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for publicly sharing my pregnancy and saying I don't care about my sister's miscarriage? I, 27 female, am pregnant with my first child. As expected, I am very happy, and I'm sharing news of my pregnancy on Facebook as I have several family members who live overseas. And also, I want to. This is my first child, and I'm beyond happy. The issue is my older sister, 29 female, who is infertile and has given up on children after 9 miscarriages. I and my sister have never had a good relationship. She was sick as a baby and nearly died. The trauma of it caused my parents to favor her and place her above me, and I was always expected to make myself as small as possible to accommodate her. She always got a cake and more presents on my birthday so she wouldn't feel left out. I was told to hide my grades as she did very badly at school. I was also not allowed to display any trophies in my room because she might see them and get upset. My sister 100% leaned into this and made my life hell. She would make stuff up so my parents would take stuff from me and give it to her. I was even told to not go to my prestigious university, think Ivy League in my country, because it would upset her. When I chose to go, my parents cut me off, which was fine as my paternal grandparents who pretty much raised me took care of everything. Since then, I have been low contact with my family and only see them around a holiday at my grandparents' place. They weren't even invited to my wedding. When I got pregnant, I shared the announcement online and everybody congratulated me, except my parents and sister, who harassed me and reported my post so it would get taken down. I just blocked them all. I saw them again on New Year's at the grandparents' place, and when they saw me, my sister started screaming at my grandparents, saying how could they invite me after what I did to her. She was also screaming at my belly as if it offended her. She kept crying and saying how could I do this to her. I told her I did nothing to her. She went on and on about her miscarriages and how hard they were on her, but I snapped and told her I don't care. She's not my sister. She's my bully who tormented me my whole life. I owe her nothing. My life has nothing to do with her. This got my parents mad and they screamed at me too. My uncles ended up throwing them out and it ruined a party. My family said I did nothing wrong, but my parents and sister's friends have been mass reporting my Facebook account until I ended up deleting it. Not the a-hole, and it sounds like you need to go from low contact to full no contact. Your pregnancy has nothing to do with her, and she needs to grow up. Your parents have enabled her to play the victim for her whole life. You don't need to contribute any time and attention to that. I only saw them during the holidays at my grandparents' place, but I don't think I can anymore. Not for me, but for my kid. I don't want her exposed to that. Definitely not, and you'd never be able to leave her in a room with them, even for a toilet break. They'd find ways to weasel in and manipulate her. Nothing sucks more than having to go no contact, but it sounds like this option causes less pain and stress for everyone. Best of luck with the rest of your pregnancy. I hope you celebrate and enjoy it well. And enjoy being a mother. Surprisingly, not the a-hole. Your parents sound like they groomed your sister to act like that. So ultimately, they are the ones you should direct your anger towards. However, your sister being offended at you getting pregnant is completely childish and rude. I'm sure she had a really hard time emotionally with those 9 miscarriages, and my heart definitely breaks for her. But you are bringing a life into this world. She should be happy and try to mend things with you, in my opinion. It's more than unfortunate that your parents enabled her behavior and brought her up to be so entitled. Ultimately, though, she will have a harder life because of that if she doesn't already. I think you should take solace in that and potentially forgive her for what she has done to you in the past. If not for her, but for you. Your parents are complete a-holes, and they should 100% be to blame for this all, I think. Cutting you off because you went to college? It seems like they set you up for failure and you ended up thriving, so you should be very proud of yourself. They also pit you both against each other from the moment you were born, so it would be great if you and your sister could reconnect and not give them the satisfaction of that working. I have many sisters myself, and my dad definitely played favorites on my younger sister. But ultimately, we were able to bond through negative experiences facilitated by both my parents. I'm wishing that for you, or at least peace. Last story. Am I the a-hole for skipping my stepdaughter's wedding? I, 50 female, have 2 stepchildren, Sarah, 23 female, and Mike, 28 male. I have been in their lives since Sarah was 2. Sarah's mom, Kate, was a drug addict, and when Sarah was 3, she lost all her parental rights because of her addiction. Kate left after that, and didn't have any contact until Sarah was 17. That's when Kate reached out to us, saying she was clean and wanted a relationship with the kids. My husband, Rob, was against this, but I wanted to give her a chance. We met with her and it turns out she had been clean for a while, going to therapy and had a decent job. Mike was against meeting her, and to this day insists I'm his only mom and Kate is dead to him. Sarah was more open to Kate though, and resented Mike for rejecting her. I explained that Mike was older and witnessed Kate at her worst, so he has a different relationship with her, while Sarah only remembers her after getting clean. This issue still caused a lot of resentment between them and me. Kate blamed me for Mike being hostile and resented me. It didn't help that Sarah started rejecting me for Kate. She stopped spending time with me no matter what I did and stopped calling me mom. I told her how hurt I was, how she didn't have to choose. She could have us both. I never had an issue with Sarah and Kate. I only had an issue with being rejected. Sarah told me that while she appreciated me, at the end of the day, Kate was her and Mike's real mom. This crushed me. The final straw was when she didn't invite me to her high school graduation. I told her if she didn't want to be my daughter, then fine. From then on, she would be my husband's kid. Mike went no contact with her as well. 3 months ago, she came over with her fiancé, who we didn't even know existed, to invite us to their wedding. She said she wanted me at the bridal party, but I refused. I told her we hadn't had a relationship in years because of her wishes, and it felt uncomfortable for me to take on that role when I barely knew her now. She said she was sorry. I told her I wasn't interested. She got angry and said I had to be there because, and I quote, "What are people gonna think when both my brother and my dad's wife aren't there?" Gramps, her paternal grandfather, is gonna get angry too. I told her she clearly didn't want me there and only cared about appearances and being on her Gramps' good side because he's rich. I am not coming, nor am I having a relationship with her. She started crying and begging for forgiveness, but it felt like crocodile tears to me. After she left, she kept texting me trying to get me to change my mind. Then on the day of the wedding, she texted that she was gonna leave an empty seat for me and that I was welcome anytime if I changed my mind. I still didn't go. Rob is mad at me saying I ruined his daughter's wedding and made her cry, that all she wanted was me there, and this was a chance to fix our family. Mike, who is also no contact with her, is on my side. Edit. So I would like to clarify a few things. Sarah's relationship with Mike is no contact because she couldn't accept his decision to cut Kate off. At first, Mike didn't support Sarah and Kate, but I sat them both down. I told them they both have very different relationships with Kate. Mike remembers Kate as an addict while Sarah only knows clean Kate, and both of them are entitled to their view of Kate. Mike accepted this and was okay with Sarah/Kate, but Sarah couldn't accept it. She couldn't reconcile addict Kate with clean Kate, so she refused to believe Mike and downplayed a lot of this trauma. Sarah said things like it wasn't that bad, it was not her fault, she was sick, she gave you life, you owe her, etc. By the time Sarah was 19, their relationship became and is no contact. Kate also couldn't accept this and blames me for Mike not wanting to talk to her. Regarding the wedding, Sarah reached out to me 3 months before the wedding, even though they had been engaged for a year, saying she wanted to come over. We said yes, and she came with her fiancé, who we didn't even know existed. Apparently, they had been together for 3 years. When I say she apologized, I mean she said, "I am sorry you feel that way," which to her was an apology, but to me it's not. She also referred to me as dad's wife, as in what would people say if my dad's wife isn't there? Not even stepmom, dad's wife. She also mentioned her paternal grandfather a lot and how angry he would be. In the 2 months leading up to the wedding, she texted me to change my mind, but all she talked about was the wedding will be ruined, grandpa will be mad, etc. Once the wedding happened, she blocked me everywhere. Then I found out today her fiancé blocked me too, even though I don't follow him. I only messaged him on Instagram because he has a public profile, but I have been blocked. Same thing with Facebook, even though we aren't friends on there. She clearly wasn't genuine in her attempts to reconcile. And even if she was, it doesn't mean I am obligated to respond. She was 18 when she stopped calling me mom, 19 when she went no contact with Mike and doubled down on her decision, a decision she has held on to for 6 years total. She made her choice. Just because she's young doesn't make her entitled to forgiveness or a relationship with me. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You were the one to give the first push in getting Rob to allow Kate to see them. Sarah basically slapped you in the face for everything you did. You even told Sarah you were fine with being just a motherly figure, but she took it further by resenting you? Rob has some audacity to say you ruined the wedding when you were the only one who helped bring up these children, then not getting any support while you were blamed for Mike's choices and rejected. Did Kate go to Sarah's wedding? She and her entire family were invited, and she was also in the bridal party as maid of honor. Not the a-hole. She dropped you quickly enough for her real mom. You know, the one that did literally nothing for the hardest part of her life, then strolled in when it was convenient. She threw away 15 plus years of care like it was nothing. You can't reverse that at a drop of a hat to full a seat at a wedding. Husband is the a-hole for not seeing that she kicked you to the curb without a thought and expects you to be okay with it, although I can see he's in a difficult position. He is in a difficult position, as both of his kids are not talking to each other, and he was also started to be rejected by Sarah in favor of her stepdad. With Kate and her husband, she has it easier since there is no resentment there. But with her dad, she also has to face me and her brother. So, it's easier for her to spend more time with her mom's side of the family. That's very difficult, and sorry for the position you are all in. I'm surprised, though, that she can't see the position of her brother and her dad. She would be too young to remember her bio mom at her worst, but the others obviously can. It's great she can forgive and move on, but that doesn't remove the past and doesn't change how much you personally have done by stepping up to be her mother. I try to explain to her that Mike simply has a different relationship, but she doesn't accept that. Sorry to say, but she sounds quite self-centered. Hopefully she'll come around, but it's going to have to start with her offering a massive apology to all of you, and to you in particular. Am I the a-hole for dropping out of maid of honor role last minute because of an emergency? My best friend Chloe was getting married last Saturday, and I was the maid of honor. For 1 year straight, I was the main planner for her and did the best that I could to fit the standards she had set for the wedding. I even planned an amazing bachelorette party for 1 month before the wedding, and I couldn't do this without the gorgeous bridesmaids as well. 2 days before the wedding, my husband had a heart attack and was hospitalized. Doctor said his situation was severe, and he was transferred in an ICU. Later, doctors told me he needs an emergency open heart surgery the next 24 hours. The situation was very life-threatening, and we could lose him any time. My best friend called me to wish me well, and I thanked her. She also asked if the surgery will happen before the wedding, and I said that it will happen the day before, but it will last for many hours. She said, "That's all right. Just making sure it doesn't intervene with the wedding, that's all. It's sad we can't have Ben there, my husband, but we'll have you and you can eat and drink for both of you. Haha." That's when I told her I won't be able to come to the wedding whether my husband's surgery is over or not, because I need to care for him and I want to be next to him until we are all 100% sure he's gonna be fine. She said she understands, but she reminded me that as a maid of honor I have a duty, and it's 1 day before the wedding, so I can't drop out. I said that I am sorry about this, but I almost lost my husband and I don't want to leave his side yet. She didn't curse me out or anything, but she was very upset and she started crying. She said she understands and wished me well again. My husband's surgery went well, and we were now waiting for his recovery. It was the day of the wedding, and I called my best friend to wish her well. She didn't pick up. Later, a video called one of the bridesmaids and she answered. I asked to talk to Chloe, but she said she's busy getting ready. I said fine, I'll call later. I called again and again, but no response. I thought she was simply busy with the preparations. I called the day after the wedding and still no response. She wouldn't reply to my text at all. I contacted some of the bridesmaids and they told me that she's very upset with me for dropping out the day before the wedding, and that I should make it work no matter what. Some of them said I did what's reasonable and how my husband's health should be my priority, but some others feel like I let down the bride on her big day, and I shouldn't expect a word from her anytime soon. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I want to clarify that this is the first time my friend has ever acted like this. We faced many difficulties during wedding planning, but she was always a sweetheart about it and made sure to never give a hard time to anyone. She was actually the most chilled bride I've ever met in my life. There was no way I thought she'd react like this over such an important emergency, because I didn't have previous signs that she'd act like that. Another disclaimer. On the day of the wedding, I stopped calling because I figured she would not reply because she's busy. But later I was told that she was only not replying to me, specifically because she was upset. She had taken few calls from relatives who couldn't attend because of distance. She specifically didn't respond to me. One of the bridesmaids also pointed out how it's weird that she never called me to ask how my husband's surgery went. But as a best friend, she could take a couple of minutes out of her day to simply see if everything's okay as well. Never thought about this until my friend, the bridesmaid, mentioned it. So now it hurts way more. Now for the comments. Not a-hole. And my heart breaks for you to even have to ask this. You did everything perfectly, dear. If it was her in the hospital, would she prefer her now husband to go to a party or stay and sit with her? Or if it was her husband having open heart surgery, would she have the guts to go out and party knowing what he was going through? I'm so glad your husband's surgery went well, and I hope for a speedy recovery. I felt so guilty for a moment. Part of me still feels guilty for at least not making sure to attend the ceremony and skip the reception. But I don't know if that would be right considering my husband was just out of his surgery like that. You have absolutely no reason to feel guilty. You even FaceTimed the bride on her big day. You seem like a great friend and a great wife, and I understand a bride being mad that her maid of honor couldn't be there. But I would never expect someone to leave their significant other in pain for my wedding day. The bride can be mad or sad about the situation, but she has no right to be mad at Opie. Opie, you did exactly what you should have. It was an emergency, and your husband's health comes first. Chloe was out of line to ask you to attend anyway, knowing how sick he was. And she is out of line now to be freezing you out. And she should have checked in to see how his surgery went. Not stay home. She's delusional if she thinks her wedding should take priority over your husband's life. I wouldn't try so hard to repair this friendship, especially since she's creating more stress for you when you are already dealing with a lot. This support goes both ways. Where is she when you need her? Sulking. It didn't even cross my mind at first. She hasn't even checked up on me to see if my husband is doing well after a life-threatening situation. Everyone around me has called. Even my ex-boyfriend has texted me to wish well for my husband. Distant relatives and co-workers have contacted me, except my best friend. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my niece borrow my engagement ring? I, 28 female, recently got engaged to the man of my dreams, and he picked the perfect engagement ring. I can't get over how well he did without asking me any questions about it. It even fits perfectly despite neither of us actually knowing my ring size. I was watching my little niece, 6 female, this weekend when she saw my ring. She thought it was really pretty and wanted to try it on. I explained to her that this ring was very special to me and that I didn't want anyone else wearing it. However, I have other jewelry that we could go through together and she could wear if she wanted. She didn't. She just wanted to wear this ring, so she started pouting. I tried to get her to focus on other things and activities, but she was still in a mood about it by the time my sister, 26 female, came to pick her up a couple of hours later. My sister was annoyed and asked why I couldn't just let her wear it for a little bit. I tried to explain, but she said I just don't understand kids. Later in the week, my sister stopped by with my niece to let my dogs out while I was at work. In my line of work, wearing a ring isn't very practical, so I leave it in the ring box by my bed and put it back on when I get home. When I get home, I couldn't find it. I panicked. I looked everywhere I could think of. I called my sister to see if she had seen it while she was there, and she admitted she took it and let my niece wear it for the day. I was fuming. They had gone to the zoo. It could have been lost anywhere. My sister even admitted that they had forgotten it on a table for a few minutes. But I shouldn't be mad because they got it back. I yelled at my sister that she shouldn't have taken the ring when I specifically told her I didn't want my niece or anyone else wearing it, because I was worried about this exact kind of thing happening. I told her that I would find someone else to let my dogs out when I was working, and that she wasn't allowed in my house when I'm not home anymore. She said I'm being unfair to my niece who loves my dogs, and just wanted to feel like a princess for a little while. I'm not mad at my niece, and I don't want to punish her for what my sister did. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your sister stole the ring. Stole it. I tell her to pound sand and not talk to her for a while. But you do you in that regard. You never had to let your niece borrow it anyway. Nobody's obligated to share, especially not a piece of jewelry. And the entitlement and attitude from your sister is appalling. Your niece would get over the small normal childhood disappointment because, surprise, surprise, most people won't want to share their jewelry with her. And change your locks. Like, how on earth does the sister think what she did was acceptable or right? She reeks of entitlement. Not stay home. Your sister stole your engagement ring. Please make sure she has no access to your house going forward. Yeah, don't just revoke her key status, Opie. Full on change your locks because she may have made copies in case she lost hers or whatever. I've heard too many horror stories of this exact scenario happening. They take X person's key for Y reason, and it turns out X made a copy and broke in for whatever reason. Not stay home. How would little princess have replaced it if it had gotten lost or damaged? Or dirty? I love little kids, but a 6-year-old has no concept of the value of an engagement ring. Sister is beyond out of line. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for spending thousands of dollars of my nephew's trust assets? Before his death, my father chose me as trustee for a trust that he set up for Jacob, my severely disabled nephew, but my sister was jealous about not having been chosen as trustee and asked me to quit. She once admitted that she had plans for how to spend the trust money, such as to spend it not only on Jacob, but also on other relatives she is fond of who are not named in the trust. I thought that would be wrong and would cause trouble. Although my sister knows I'm an honest person, she told my nephew and his family that I was stealing much of the money to trust, and suggested that I should be sued and removed as trustee. Until she made those false statements, Jacob and I got along very well together, especially since I kept sending money from the trust for whatever he needed. But after that, he no longer trusted me, even though I offered to sit down with him and go through all the accounts and explain everything in detail so he might understand. Unfortunately, he is confused and easily manipulated. At the encouragement of some of his relatives who are very, very interested in the trust money, he hired a lawyer who sent me letters accusing me of criminal actions and threatening to take me to court to remove me as trustee. I cared deeply about Jacob, so I warned him that his legal action against me would force me to hire my own lawyer, that the trust would have to pay for and that it would be expensive. But he didn't listen and said he didn't care. He told me he had been assured by people he trusted that I would have to pay for all of his and my legal fees out of my own pocket. In order to prove that I had stolen nothing and remained trustee, I had to pay several $1,000s from the trust for legal expenses. Jacob was shocked that the amount was far more than he had expected, and I don't think he understands what was proven when his lawyer gave up and quit after reviewing my clean accounts. Now, almost everyone, including Jacob, says I'm a terrible trustee and that I abused Jacob and did not act in his best interest by wasting trust money. I hated having to spend trust money on legal fees, but I was trying to protect the trust from people who might have misused it if they had taken over as trustee. I was afraid that if I didn't remain trustee, the entire amount of money in the trust would disappear at the hands of my eager successor, and Jacob would get nothing more. Now he continues to get large, regular monthly payments. Am I the a-hole for spending thousands of dollars of trust money? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I hate to say it because your nephew is disabled, but this was an expensive lesson for him in who to trust and who not to trust. If he hasn't learned it by this point, there's not much you can do about it. I appreciate your sensitive reply. I do feel sad and frustrated that he isn't able to understand who his friends are, but I'm hoping he will in time come to realize the truth. In the meantime, I keep doing my job. That's about all you can do. Hopefully he'll see the light one day. Not today, home. Who has power of attorney for him? The lawyer he hired likely took advantage, and you should file a bar complaint. Maybe have an outside accountant audit the trust annually. Allow the family to see the books, but don't allow them access. I do have an outside accountant, and I do allow the family to see the books. Unfortunately, some people got excited by seeing the amount that is in the trust. Although they don't have access, apparently they wanted access. Not today, home. But is there a way to make those greedy family members reimburse the trust for a frivolous lawsuit designed to get a hold of a vulnerable person's money? I was tempted to try, because I don't view this situation as Jacob's fault, but I don't want to get into interminable lawsuits with relatives that might cost more than what was lost. Besides, these are family members who probably didn't anticipate that they would be hurting Jacob the most. By carefully investing of what was left in the trust, I have replaced all the money that was lost, and then some. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepdaughter she's ridiculous? My husband and I have been together for 5 years and married last month. My husband had a kid with his ex-girlfriend when they were 16. His daughter's now 19. Hubby is now 35 and I'm 28. His ex-girlfriend and him had a good relationship and a healthy co-parenting of their daughter, but things never worked out between them. They stayed together for the sake of the kid for 4 years, but then decided it's better to break up and figure out co-parenting. When I met my husband, his daughter was 14, and as a young person myself, I tried to fit in with her and build a good relationship, but she refused. I respected her boundaries and understood it's not easy for every kid to see their parents with someone else. But growing up, my stepdaughter started being obsessed with my husband beyond the normal. She would always ask to sit on his lap, she'd always call him hot, and she also insulted me multiple times as if she was a jealous ex. I found her whole behavior concerning, and I suggested my husband gets the kid to a therapist because she might have some unresolved trauma from the past. She went to therapy and bettered herself for some time. She stopped visiting her therapist once she turned 18 and moved out. Since then, she's been demanding my husband takes her on dates, buys her clothes, buys her jewelries. She posts pictures with my husband on social media with captions, "My one true love, my man." She started being insulting towards me once again and called me a chick every time she met me. And unprovoked told me she'll always be number one woman in my husband's life. I know my husband loves his daughter, and I know his daughter comes first, but her attitude troubles me a lot. On me and my husband's wedding, his daughter wore a white dress which was similar to a wedding dress and also had a small train. Her mom, hubby's ex who was also invited, scolded her. After this ongoing behavior, my husband tries to establish some boundaries with his daughter. But she's throwing tantrums that accuses my husband of choosing a cheap woman over his actual daughter. I told her that I've had enough, and she needs to stop being a ridiculous entitled brat and accept that her dad is an adult man who deserves his own personal life. That was apparently harsh. My husband sided with me, but some of my friends who I told them this told me I should never insult my husband's daughter no matter what. Am I the a-hole? 9 out of 10 times I side with stepchildren on issues. You're not the a-hole for this one. That girl needs some serious help, but I feel bad for her. I hope she goes back to therapy and can accept she needs to work on whatever is troubling her so deeply. Going forward, don't be afraid or reluctant to protect yourself, especially mentally. Hope you'd like to add that what your friend said is probably good advice. Not for the reason that you might be an a-hole, but for the reason of not escalating any situation with her. Good luck. I normally roll my eyes at suggestions of therapy. Not this time. Something is clearly up here. Not the good kind of something. Not the a-hole. She's displaying worrying behavior and needs to go back to the therapist. She's displaying an unhealthy view towards her dad. It is possibly showing signs that she's confusing familial love with romantic love. If she doesn't get this resolved, she could become very delusional. It risks harming her relationship not only with her father and yourself, but with her entire family. It's also very possible that she has underlying mental health issues which haven't been diagnosed yet. Either way though, you're not the a-hole in this. How is your husband even remotely okay with any of this? He needs to put an end to this ASAP. His daughter's behavior is obsessive AF. Not the a-hole. He's not okay with this. He's very uncomfortable that his grown daughter is acting like that. He insists she should go to therapy because she's treating my husband as a romantic partner, which is not normal. And my husband believes it may be trauma response from her childhood and the fact that she was closer to her dad and estranged from her mother for years. But she's an adult and she can't be forced into therapy by my husband.